Starring Bela Day in... But Ma, that's my favorite movie. Oh, well, all right. But don't you spend too much time in front of that TV, do you hear me? Yes, Ma. Welcome to another episode of my podcast, But Ma, that's my favorite movie. And I am your host, Bela Day. Now, I want to thank my listeners. If you are a returning listener, then thank you so much for coming back. You're a real one, period. And if you are a new listener, thank you so much for stopping by and giving my podcast a chance. I really appreciate that. And you are definitely in for a treat, which will keep you coming back for more. All right, now what I want to go ahead and do is I want to give a little info about how this podcast works. So if you are a new listener, I'm going to give you the lowdown. So this is where we discuss movies. We aren't really critiquing them. So basically think of it as if we started a conversation about a particular movie, and then I go into telling you about that movie without spoiling the ending. And then I also give information about the cast, crew, and behind the scenes. Now, we, for the most part, our main episodes will involve either a double feature where we will talk about two different movies. For example, the episode before this was But Ma, that's Bela Day's favorite movie. And in that episode, I literally talked about two of my favorite movies. And for the most part, in the theme episodes, I will talk about movies that I love, enjoy, or even maybe, talk about a movie that I've seen for the first time. And then another type of episode we'll have is where we will do solo movies, and those will be called our matinees. So with those movies, I will literally just break down one movie. The ending will be spoiled. Those are the only ones I spoil, because sometimes I have one particular movie that I just feel the need to just give it to you, give all of it to you, because I love it so much. I think it's some good content. And for the most part, sometimes with these movies, even though you hear someone talk about it and they tell you what happens, it's still not the same as watching it. So maybe even then you would still want to watch it for yourself. Because ultimately, it's just a little conversation we're having together. And I'm just informing you of movies that I have seen, or movies I enjoy, or movies I love, or some of my favorite movies. All right. Now, I want to get into the social media corner really quick. So please follow our social media pages, which will include things like Guess the Movie, where basically I will give you a preview of what the next episode will be. And how I do that is by creating a visual, and I will show like a particular scene or picture that shows the movie, and you'll have to guess what movie I'm going to be talking about in the next episode. And we are available on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we do have a website as well, which is butma.that'smyfavoritemovie.com. So, on that website, you'll get information about myself, how I started the podcast. Also, it lists all the different places that you can listen to the podcast on. And then you can even listen to the podcast on the website, because they have a little media player, where you can actually listen to the episodes on the website. So definitely check that out. And I have some other things we're going to add to it. It's currently, it's how it is right now, but I do plan to implement some other things. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what that will be. Also, do not forget that I'm still doing a contest where I'll be giving away $50 from a drawing. And so basically how you'll enter that drawing is you will tag our page on any of the social medias, while basically shouting out the podcast. Or you can give us a review on the Apple Podcast app or website, depending on, however you access it. And pretty much I'm going to do a little alteration to that. If you do the shout out by tagging us on social media or the review, you'll get 2 entries for those. Now, if you do both of them, a review and shouting us out on social media, you will get 4 entries into that contest. So that is still definitely going on. Also, all of the handles and the link to the website will be in the show notes and the descriptions below. Alrighty. And before I do go any further, I must apologize. The normal plan for my episodes is that I am going to, this is a weekly podcast. So you should expect a new episode every Thursday. But I didn't post last Thursday. And so this week I'm making it up by doing 2 episodes. And sometimes I'll do that. It just depends. We're going through a lot right now. I'm currently in Texas and we're going through our first type of snowstorm. We've never experienced this before. Like even my parents have never experienced anything like this before. And so we're going through something a little different on top of everything else, which is the pandemic and just the new way of life. And it's just all a lot. And so sometimes I just want a break from it all. And so if I don't post or for whatever reason, I'm not on time with, doing the weekly podcast, I will always find some way to make it up. So please forgive me. And I definitely hope that listening to this episode is giving you what you've needed if you've been, waiting on an episode to be posted. So yeah. And without further ado, let's get into this episode. So this movie is titled But Ma, That's Claudine. Okay. And so we're going to be talking about this movie that's titled Claudine. And let's just get into it. So first off, we're going to go ahead and do our quote. Okay. Because we always have to do our quotes. Okay. All right. Lights, camera, action. Well, ain't it just too damn bad you didn't get your ass knocked up by Frederick Douglass? And that quote is by Claudine, who's played by Diane Carroll, R.I.P. She's a beautiful woman, a wonderful actress. And I love this movie. All right, so this movie was released March 30th, 1974. We have writers Tina Pine and Lester Pine. So I'm assuming they're either siblings or they're married. And they both wrote for other films titled I Spy and Poppy. And the spelling of this is kind of weird. It's P-O-P-I. Then we have director John Barry, who also directed Chillers and The Great Chase. And all right, let's go ahead and get into this summary, okay? And like I said, in these solo movies, I basically go through the whole freaking movie, giving a little bit of my commentary in between. And then I do the cast, then the behind the scenes information. And then with solo episodes, I do something a little different by adding in some type of hypothetical questions about the movie. All right, so let's get into this. So first off, we have Claudine Price, who's played by Diane Carroll, who has 6 children. Yes, 6 children, okay? We have Charles, played by Lawrence Hilton Jacobs. We have Charlene, played by Tamu Blackwell. Paul is played by David Kruger. We have Patrice, played by Yvette Curtis. Francis, played by Eric Jones. And Loren, played by Sucro Stevens. Now, Claudine is a single mother who is taking care of her kids by herself with the help of welfare. Now, I only mention this because this is a vital piece to the theme and plot of the movie. It's just a major part of it. So Claudine gets on the bus to work, and this is the beginning of the movie. She gets on the bus to work. She sits with her friends on the bus, and they're having like a casual conversation until they bring up that they've noticed how uptight Claudine has been lately. And so they begin to joke with her that basically she needs some sex. She needs to get a man, and hopefully, when she gets that man, it's going to loosen her up, because they're like, you're just too nervous acting. You're too uptight. Hello everyone, this is Bila Day. Sorry to interrupt this episode, but I just wanted to let you know that you were only listening to a preview. So if you would like to listen to the rest of this episode, then you can definitely go to the website, butmathat'smyfavoritemovie.com, or you can go directly to any of these platforms for the full episode. We are available on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Castbox. Please don't hesitate to follow the podcast on any of those platforms so that you can be notified anytime a new episode is available. If you didn't know, our primary release day is every Thursday, but be on the lookout for bonus content as well. Now, if you've listened to the But Ma, That's My Favorite Movie podcast before, that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. So if you have a friend that loves movies like we do, then definitely go ahead and share this podcast with them. And if you're a new listener and you do end up enjoying the podcast, well, then you go ahead and share with a friend too. Also, don't forget to like any of our social media pages so that you can also get updates and regular information about the podcast and about any of the episodes that are coming up. The social media sites that we have a presence on are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And also, if you want to leave a review, whether constructive or positive, we'd appreciate that too. All right, go ahead and get over to one of the other platforms so we can finish getting into the rest of these movies.